Have you ever met someone in your village so strange, so unsettling, that you couldn't take your eyes off them, yet feared them at the same time? This is the story of Yakov Stepanovich, the postman no one truly understood. A man who delivers more than just letters. Sometimes he delivers terror. Stay tuned, because what happened in that abandoned hamlet will shock you to your core. Asterisk, there are countless professions in the world. Some are hard, some easy, some considered male or female. But there's one profession that often goes unnoticed, and its demand isn't very high either. I'm talking about the job of a postman. Nowadays, we often use courier services where young people deliver packages quickly and efficiently. But in some parts of our country, there are still places where the old-fashioned postman delivers letters, pensions, and social benefits. Sometimes it's women, but men in this job are rare. I want to tell you the story of one such postman from a rural area. I remember it clearly. I had just finished 10th grade, and right after the last bell celebration, I went to spend the summer at my grandmother's village. I spent the entire summer there. Beautiful landscapes, delicious homemade food, and fresh air. In the mornings, I helped my grandmother with chores, and in the evenings, I either wandered with my local friends or drank tea with my grandmother, listening to her wonderful stories. I had been visiting this village every summer, and the villagers knew me well. Even the local dogs would greet me. Here, I felt at home, maybe even better than home. Despite all this peace, there was one person who made me uneasy, the village postman. He was a strange, lanky man in his 50s, dressed in worn-out clothes, with an old leather bag slung over his shoulder. His shoes were dusty and tattered, and he wore thick glasses that magnified his eyes. Back then, I had never felt dislike or distrust toward people, but he was an exception. I remember when he came to my grandmother's house to deliver pensions. He would sit at the table in the hallway, fumble with the bills, his hands trembling, and glance around constantly. It looked as if he had stolen the money, run around a corner, and was now counting his loot. On top of that, Yakov Stepanovich, as he was called, had a very unpleasant nasal voice. Whenever he visited us, I counted the minutes until he left, as I couldn't stand his presence. Plus, he always left a foul odor behind, as if he hadn't bathed in months. One evening, I asked my grandmother, "Grandma, has he always looked and smelled like this?" She replied, "My dear Andriusha, don't be so quick to judge our postman. He's very punctual and honest. I know that in his youth he was handsome and strong. He married quickly, but they couldn't have children. He lived with his wife for 10 or 15 years, then divorced. The village whispered that his wife was pregnant by another man and filed for divorce. After the divorce, he suffered greatly and turned to alcohol, though he eventually stopped. And the saddest part, he began aging rapidly. Not by days, but by hours. The villagers noticed that Yakov started acting oddly around young women. He avoided them, and when delivering newspapers or letters to young couples, he would drop them last, usually tossing them into mailboxes or slipping them between fence slats. Wind would scatter the papers, and the residents would scold him, but he always silently did things his way. Eventually, everyone installed mailboxes. Stepanovich also avoided crowds of young people, especially in the evenings, as they often laughed at him. He'd either speed past or take a detour. He had other odd habits, but the older villagers and I were content. He delivered pensions and newspapers on time and treated us with respect. Curious, I asked, "Where does he live?" "I notice he comes from the direction of the train station, but there are no villages that way." Grandmother explained, "He lives in an old hamlet called Sosnovka, near the train station. In Soviet times, there were 10 houses, but now it's abandoned. Only the postman lives there." I was shocked. Isn't it scary to live there alone? Look at Stepanovich, he's enough to scare anyone. But come on, drink your tea and get some sleep. Tomorrow it's your turn to herd the cows. Your legs are sore, and there's a lot to do, so you better rest. Take a friend with you if you want company. That night I couldn't sleep. Thoughts of the postman circled in my mind. There was something unusual and terrifying about him. I decided to take my friend Misha with me to the pasture the next day to talk about this strange man. The next morning came quickly. I barely got out of bed. Grandmother gave me breakfast and packed an extra snack, knowing I'd probably have company herding the cows. I gathered the herd and led them to the pasture about 1 kilometer from the village. There, I lay on the grass to nap while the cows grazed. Misha woke me jokingly. "Hey, shepherd, wake up, the cows are being led." I groaned. "Someone's got to do it." Misha whispered about news in the village. "Mashka is missing." "What? How?" "She was just here a couple of nights ago," I said, shocked. "She went home last night after we joked about Stepanovich. Now the entire village is in a panic. Her parents called the police, but no trace has been found." I felt dread creeping in. Could the postman have taken her? "No way," Misha replied. "He barely comes to the village." We decided to investigate the hamlet near the station where Stepanovich lived. Riding our bikes, we entered a small forest and emerged onto a street lined with abandoned, crumbling houses. The last house was different. It had a yard and a fence, the windows covered by dark curtains. There was an entrance to the basement. "This must be where he lives," I whispered. It was dark, but I felt I had no choice. I drew my knife and descended the stairs. Down below, a bright violet light glowed. In the corner, Mashka was tied up, her head bowed, pale, crying. A figure stood before her, a horrifying mix of human and animal, with sharp claws and large donkey-like ears. A cauldron nearby emitted a foul-smelling potion. The figure twitched and made terrifying sounds. I stepped forward, stumbled, and made a loud noise. Mashka looked up. "Andrei, you came," she whispered. "Hit him now while he's in a trance. He has incredible strength." I kicked the creature in the chest, raised my bag and knife, and stabbed its neck. Dark, foul liquid spurted out. The monster collapsed. I rushed to untie Mashka. Her hands were icy. Somehow she was alive. We fled the basement and ran back to the village. We told her parents everything. The police investigated and ruled my actions as self-defense. Mashka needed extensive treatment, but she survived. Even now, I wish her a full recovery, and somehow feel she won't be laughing at people for a long time. And so, the story ends. For now. But in quiet villages, in abandoned houses, who knows what secrets are still waiting to be uncovered. If you loved this chilling tale, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon. Share it with someone who loves mysteries. And remember, sometimes, the people you think you know are not what they seem.